Alright, this thing is recording. Perfect. Yo, what's up, guys? So I'm sitting here, it's a nice night. Blue sky. Anyway, I figured I'd do a postmortem on the Mariners really quick, because this season's done. It's completely done. This team is just stick a fork in them. They're fucking finished. I mean, they can't score runs. They can't play defense. They can't do anything. They're done. They're finished. They're not making the playoffs. Oh, unless some miracle happens, they're not making the playoffs. And the question is, how did it come to this? How did it come to this? Well, the answer is simple. Ownership. It starts with ownership. It always starts with ownership. And unfortunately, the Mariners have the cheapest fucking ownership group on the planet. John Stanton, Chris Larson, and the rest of them. John Stanton, a guy that started T-Mobile. A guy who, I don't know if he owns it anymore, but, he's making a shit ton of money off of T-Mobile. One of, if not the biggest fucking telephone carrier in America. Like, that guy can't fund a team. He can't spend $200 million. Like, that's the problem. Because this offseason, once again, the Mariners didn't do anything. They spent no money outside of Josh Naylor. They spent $20 million on Josh Naylor to re-sign. Yeah, it was $20 a year. So they spent $100 million on Josh Naylor, and they called it good. They decided no, that's good enough. They signed Russ Snyder for $6 million, and that didn't work out. And then they signed Mitch Garver. And then they just figured, oh yeah, no, we're good. We don't need to add any talent. We don't need to do anything. We're good. Well, that's not going to win you a lot of ball games. Because once again, this team was constructed 75% of the way during the offseason, and then they figured, well, we'll be good enough at the deadline to fix any problems we have. Well, that didn't work this time. I mean, you've literally got 5 nights of an offense right now. You've got a catcher. You've got an everyday catcher. You've got an everyday first baseman, everyday second baseman, everyday shortstop, everyday center fielder, and that's it. I'm not counting Randy as an everyday player because he sucks in left field. So you got 5 guys that can actually field their position. And then the rest is just shit. You got a left fielder that can't field his position for dick. Because Randy is a fucking DH. That's what he is. He's a DH. He hits well, fields for shit. Dominic Canzone, same thing. He's a DH. Hits pretty good, can't field for shit. I mean, Luke Ridley's not a bad right fielder. When he's healthy. And then you stuck Rob Snyder out there, and he didn't do anything. The allure of Rob Snyder was all in Boston. I mean, when you play in a hitter's park, you're going to hit. I mean, that's just, how it goes. Same thing happens in Colorado. You take a hitter out of a hitter's park, in this case, Boston, Fenway Park, and he ain't going to hit. So, left field and right field are 2 problem spots. And then you got third base. Right now, it was supposed to be Brendan Donovan, but then he got injured for most of the year, and you had to make do. And you're starting third baseman when JP wasn't injured, and JP's injured right now. So your starting third baseman is Weston fucking Wilson. Weston Wilson. Before that, it was Leo Rivas. And these are not everyday players. You got no starting third baseman. JP was okay when he was healthy, but again, he's not healthy. That's a large part of the problem. And the first time, it really wasn't his fault. The first time he got injured, well, okay, fine. The second time he got injured, and not mention, in April, when he was injured, but he comes back, and then he gets injured again, because Framber Valdez is a punk-ass baby bitch, and threw at JP on purpose, because Framber was having a bad day. And he decided, well, JP needs to feel the brunt of his anger. So he throws at JP, hits him in the hand. JP goes on the IL for 10 games, a little bit more than 10 games. And Framber didn't face any punishment. But that's neither here nor there. But, fucking Gabe Speier allegedly throws at one of Detroit's guys, and he gets a 3-game rip, which, whatever. But my point is, JP got injured because, Framber threw at him because Framber's a baby bag bitch, and, he just decided he was having a bad day, so somebody else is going to have a bad day too, and that unfortunate somebody was JP Crawford. Which meant they needed a third baseman, and Brendan Donovan was injured, so in steps Leo Rivas. I mean, Leo Rivas should not be your everyday starting third baseman. He shouldn't be. Weston Wilson should not be your everyday starting third baseman. You failed to get a third baseman, an everyday third baseman in the offseason. You completely failed that job. Willie Castro was out there for $6 million. Instead, you went with Rob Refsnyder when you already had Victor Robles on the team. You could have taken that $6 million and given it to Willie Castro. Still could have gotten, Brendan Donovan. And when if you had Willie Castro would be your third baseman right now. No problem. Because Willie Castro can hit right-handed pitching, and Willie Castro plays all 3 outfield positions. I believe he plays all 3 outfield positions. I don't know if he plays center, but I believe he plays left and right field. So instead of going with Refsnyder, you could have gone with Willie Castro and solved that right-handed platoon problem. But you didn't. You also would have solved your third base problem too. Because Willie Castro, I mean, it's ideally you don't want to play him every day at third base, but you can manage with him at third base every day. Twins did it for years. So, that's part of your problem. I mean, you did fix the right field problem by going out and getting Taylor Ward, but that's only a Band-Aid until the end of the season, and you don't know if he's going to re-sign. And once that's over with, you're right back to the same problem. Not to mention your bullpen. Like, there were some real good relievers on the free agent market this year, and you guys could have signed, and the Mariners could have signed at least one or two of them. to supplement that bullpen. I forget who was out there during the off season, but I know there were a couple of good relief pitchers on the open market in free agency. And I'm not talking about Devin Williams or Edwin Diaz or anything like that. I'm talking about good, solid relievers, guys that are better than the Michael Ruckers and the Alex Ahopis and the Edward Bizardos of the world. Guys who actually, have pitched leverage innings before and were actually pretty good at it. Those guys were available. And you didn't get any of those guys because you figured, oh, well, we got Carlos Vargas. We got Matt Brash. We'll be fine. We'll be able to, find this guy, add him to the pile, and, we'll supplement it that way. That guy's not going to pitch, 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever. And then Brash gets injured. And then Vargas gets injured first, then Brash gets injured. And now you're having to rely on guys like Michael Rucker and Nick Davila and Bizardo. And, I know I'm forgetting a couple of guys. I can't remember off the top of my head, but my point is, you're relying on guys you shouldn't be relying on in high leverage situations. And it's killing this team. And it all goes back to ownership being cheap. It all goes back to ownership being dirt cheap. Ownership not wanting to spend money. Had ownership spent a little bit more money, and it wouldn't have taken a lot of money, mind you, maybe an extra $20 million. Like, what did ownership spend this year? $26 million, $30 million, something like that. If they had spent about $45 million, let's call it $50 million, going out and, getting a guy like Willie Castro, just in case in case you needed, a backup third baseman. Going out and getting a reliever to supplement that bullpen, or a reliever or two to supplement that bullpen. You would have been fine. But they didn't do that. Once again, they are in the same position that they found themselves at the end of last year. They went cheap. And this is what happens when you go cheap every fucking year. If you go cheap, you are relying on everything to go right. Like, no issues. Like, last year, everything went right. Like, everything. Everything broke the Mariners' way. Everything went right. They got all the bounces. And they made it to Game 7 of the ALCS. And I made a video last year saying, had they gone out at the trade deadline last year, and I don't know what Minnesota was asking for. Reportedly, it was Harry Ford. But had they gone out and spent just a little bit of extra capital for Johan Duran, just that little bit of extra capital, whatever that prospect may be, instead of having Bizardo pitch the 7th, maybe you're having Duran pitch the 7th. Or maybe since you have Duran in tow, you can afford to, have Munoz pitch that 7th inning and face Springer, and then Duran closes it out, if need be, that kind of thing. But you went cheap. And the off season, and you had to rely on the deadline to fix your problems. And last year, you got by some grace of the baseball gods, you got the two best bats out there, Gino and Josh Naylor. Granted, Gino didn't do much, but you got the two best bats out there. And this deadline, you got nothing. I mean, you got Taylor Ward, but that's about it. You didn't get any reliever. Zilch. And this year, I can't really blame Jerry and Justin for not getting a reliever. I can't. I mean, if you saw, the returns for relievers were kind of insane. I mean, the Rockies got a good prospect and a starting caliber third baseman. Now I know Connor Norby ain't nothing, but I know Connor Norby hasn't done a lot, but he's a starting caliber third baseman for Victor Vodnik, who is not a great reliever, but he's an okay reliever. I mean, that's an insane price. And here we are again. August 9th, I don't remember what. Is it August 9th? August 7th? Whatever day it is. Here we are, Sunday. Here we are on Sunday, August 9th. And your Seattle Mariners are 7 games under 500. And about 4 or 5 games off the pace of the wild card and the division and everything else. And it's all because ownership didn't spend the money, would not spend money. I mean, yeah, they got rid of Luis Castillo, which was not Luis Castillo's contract, which was nice, but they had to take on Sir Anthony Dominguez's contract, and Sir Anthony Dominguez should not be making $10 million a year. He shouldn't. No disrespect to Sir Anthony Dominguez, but the fact that the White Sox had to pay him $10 million, that was a massive overpay. But that's kind of how it goes. So yeah, this team is done because ownership sucks. And people are going to say, well, fire Dan. Well, firing Dan ain't going to solve the problem. If you fire Dan, you're just going to bring in another manager. You're going to have the same fucking problems. Because the problem isn't Dan Wilson. The problem is Dan Wilson doesn't have enough to work with. Like, you can't put Michael Rucker out there in the 8th inning every if you have a 2-run lead in the 8th inning and expect good things to happen. I mean, yeah, can you criticize his bullpen managing decisions from time to time? Sure. But he's not the problem. The problem is ownership. And it's always going to be ownership. Great franchises have great ownership groups. If you want to win a championship, it's all about the ownership. It starts at the top. And the Mariners have not had a good ownership group in a long time. Actually, ever since their beginning, they have not had a good ownership group. Ever. And that's the problem. John Stanton bought this team, 10, 15 years ago? And the first things out of his lying ass mouth were, well, I want to bring a World Series to Seattle. I want to bring a championship to Seattle. Well, 15, 20 years later, here we are. No World Series championship. None. As a matter of fact, in the John Stanton era, the Mariners have been to precisely 2 playoff series. 2. That's it. That's pathetic. That's woefully pathetic. Meanwhile, you've got other teams in this town with better ownership groups, and they've been to the playoffs multiple times. And I'm not going to count the Kraken, because the Kraken have been around for about 5 years, and supposedly, if you take the Golden Knights out of it, supposedly it takes an NHL team, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 years to, build a team, that kind of thing, and get its footing on the ground. So I'm not going to count the Kraken quite yet, because they're still a little too new. But you look at the Seahawks. Under Paul Allen. He bought the team in, 96? And it took them a little while to find their footing. But once they found their footing, and they hired Holmgren in, 99? 98, 99, something like that. I don't think they've missed the playoffs a lot. I mean, they have something like 20, 25 playoff appearances, 4 Super Bowl appearances, 2 Super Bowl titles, which really, if we're being honest, it should be 4 Super Bowl titles. It should be 4 Super Bowl titles. Countless division championships. I think they've won the NFC West like 17 or 18 times since Paul Allen bought them. I mean, it's a lot. They have been one of the premier franchises in the NFL. One of the premier franchises. Top 5 over the last, 25 plus years. Right up there with New England and Pittsburgh, and that's, they've been a well-run machine. And I can only remember maybe 2 or 3 times since Paul Allen bought the team that the Seahawks haven't made the playoffs. 2 or 3. I mean, I can count the number of times they haven't made the playoffs on one hand. That's what good ownership does for you. The Sounders. I'm not really into soccer, but I know the Sounders have been to have had multiple playoff runs. I think they won a championship. They've got multiple division titles, and so on. And that's what good ownership does. The Storm. And again, I'm not an WNBA fan. I haven't followed basketball since the Sonics have left, and I probably won't follow basketball until the Sonics come back, in the next year or two. But the Storm. They've won the NBA championship 6 times? Or something like that? They've won their division multiple times. It's somewhere in the teens, 15 or something like that. They've had just about as many playoff runs as the Seahawks. I mean, they've been a successful franchise because of their ownership group. And then you look at the Mariners. Ever since John Stanton bought the damn team, 2 playoff appearances. 2. That's it. That is woefully pathetic. This is a team, mind you, that has never been to the World Series. Never. Only team in Major League Baseball that's never been to the World Series. Only team. They've had expansion teams come in way after them that made it to the World Series and actually won the damn thing. The Mariners haven't even sniffed it. But that's okay. I mean, we got 1995. I mean, that was fun, right? Well, you know, we celebrate that almost every year. And then we got 2001. Those were good times, right? We celebrate that every year. Oh, you remember 2021 when, you know, they ended the drought? Those were good times, weren't they? Oh, and last year when they made the ALCS, that was fun times. You know what all four of those runs have in common? They ended in failure. Abject fucking failure. And as the owner of a team that's never made the World Series, I would think that owner, seeing, especially since he can afford it, would want to do everything he can to put his team in the best position that they can be to win a championship. Best position that they can be. And year in and year out, and it's just hollow words from a hollow ownership group. That's all it is. And that right there, boys and girls, is the crux of the problem. You can blame Jerry all you want. You can blame Justin all you want. You can blame Dan all you want. You can blame whoever you want. You know, you can blame the analytics. You can blame this, that, or the other. Well, guess what? There are a lot of other teams out there that use analytics to their advantage. Dodgers do it all the time. Rays do it all the time. They don't have a problem with it. But the Dodgers and Rays have a more complete roster. I mean, the Dodgers have a super team, but, you know, that's what happens when, you know, you have rich owners and you have the best TV deal in the business, and you can buy whatever player you want. And the Rays are really good at it too, because they focus on the fundamentals and everything. But the crux of the problem is ownership. It's always been ownership. And unfortunately, it's going to keep being ownership because this team just refuses to put together a complete roster. You know, and until they get their heads out of their asses and they get their shit together and they put together a complete roster in the off season instead of putting together a roster that's 75% complete and then decide, okay, well, we'll fix it in, 3 months or 4 months. We'll fix it in July. That's no way to win. That's like driving on a bald tire. That's like putting 3 good tires and 1 not so good tire on your car, and deciding, well, it's 75% complete. I'll worry about the other tire when I need to worry about it, and then the tire blows out. When you're 40, 50 miles, or however miles you are away from a gas station, and you're stranded in the middle of nowhere. And you got no cell signal, and you're stuck. That's what the Seattle Mariners are. It's just mediocre baseball. And until ownership gets serious about winning, it's always going to be this way. But anyway, that's all I got.